Hello, this is Michael Randle, and this is today's Faith Builders Podcast. First thing I want to do is thank you for giving me a moment to tune in to this podcast, and I pray that you are blessed by what I share. I want to remind you also that the music that you're listening to is not my own, but I do love it. And then I want to ask that you would share this on your timeline. Share this on your timeline. Hit share. Allow someone else to be blessed by it if you are blessed by it. Matter of fact, when you share it, tag someone who you believe could use this message. Today I want to talk about the practice of prayer. On a day when hearts are grieving the loss of one of our country's most noted congressmen, Representative Elijah Cummings, prayer becomes a well-suited measure for addressing how we feel. Over the last few years of my life, I've prayed more than I have before. Not that I haven't prayed much, but I've always believed in prayer. But this time, taking every advantage to seek the Lord's guidance and ask for His presence in the tough parts of life has been my aim. Not that I believe I've made it to the likes of an E.M. Bounds or many other prayer warriors that we may know of, or someone in your life that you may know as a prayer warrior. Rather, I just want to grow in that discipline of my life. I can imagine that many of the people listening to this, you want your prayer life to be increased. When things get tough in life hits you, whether it's a soft blow or a hard blow, you need the practice of prayer that is proven and sure. What do I mean? I mean, until you and I become accustomed to the effectual fervency of prayer, very little will be accomplished. And I want more from my prayer life, and I know that you do. Jesus is right when He says we can pray in His name, abide in Him, and allow His word to abide in us, and then we can go to Him in prayer and we will receive what we are praying for. It is sure then that I must increase the disciplines of my prayer life. And I want to bless you with some practices that I think will help you, because I believe I am not alone. I believe many of you want to see your prayer life become the effectual, fervent prayer that James was talking about that avails much. Many of us want to know that we can have the faith and build up the faith that receives, as Jesus says, we can stand in front of mountains and say, "Be thou removed," and those mountain-like situations will be removed. There's a practice to that, and I want to help you. In a previous podcast, I said you ought to pray morning, noon, and evening for the most part. Early good morning prayer, midday 5-minute prayer on a break, and then an evening prayer where you meditate and receive from God, thinking within your own heart and mind. But I want to offer a couple other things for you today. Number one, use a prayer guide or an app. I have an app on my iPhone. It's called Prayer Notes. And I often use it to measure the effectualness of my prayer. Buy a prayer journal or guide. You can go to Amazon.com. I've written a prayer guide called Focus on Prayer. You'll be blessed. It's a simple guide, gives a few instructions on how to pray and some verses to pray for over a 31-day period, and your prayer will be focused. You can get that guide on Amazon.com, and I've also posted a link here on this podcast. And then lastly, keep a notepad, just a little pad, a little something that you can write down on every now and then about things that you want to pray about or answers to your prayer. Keep this in mind. Prayer is a practice, and it can only be effective when we learn to discipline the practice and use it well, much like athletes who practice in off-season times and exercise to build up their muscles and to be strong, and to keep the agility that they require while playing their sport. You and I must practice and discipline our lives for prayer. An anonymous writer said this, and then I'm through. When you don't know the words to say in prayer, use your heart. And I thought that was dynamic, because sometimes prayers are like the prayer of Hannah, who you saw her mouth moving, but you didn't hear a word because she was praying from her heart. And I want to suggest that part of that practice of prayer is praying from your heart, doing it well, and doing it often. Hey, I hope you've been blessed. Thank you for giving me this moment to step into your social media world and to be a blessing to you. I hope you were blessed. I also pray that you are encouraged by what I share. Do me a favor again, hit share on this, tag a friend on it, someone you know will be blessed by it. Have your friends go over to Amazon.com, search my name, Michael L. Randle. Get a copy of the book, Developing a Winning Faith. Lessons like these are in that book. And then you can also get a copy of the book, Focus on Prayer. It's a prayer guide with some open pages for you to jot down some prayers related to some verses of Scripture and a small guide and lesson on how to develop a prayer life. I pray that you've been blessed by what I shared today. And again, thank you for tuning in to Faith Builders Podcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day.